Have you ever wanted to be legally pronounced dead, perhaps re-establish the property values of a dead empire, or even be a woman? Well, welcome to Warhammer. Warhammer's 3 Tomb Kings are a playable race of desert skeletons who represent the very worst aspect of human civilization: real estate development, middle management, and of course, being alive. A lot of people with low mental fortitude don't like the Tomb Kings. They say things like their army size is terrible and you can't just will your employees into unpaid labor for eternity. To them I say, you have clearly never been a middle manager. We don't pay our soldiers in gold, we pay them in exposure. Quite literally, they are exposed to the elements, artillery, and crippling existential dread.
Why are we still here?
You can play as Cetra the Imperishable. He is great if you have a high credit score and a sexual attraction to hierarchy, but maybe you hate yourself. And if all else fails, you can always play as Khalida, a woman so disappointed that she literally weaponized it. But it doesn't really matter what you play. Regardless of your choice, your moral compass will inevitably start pointing towards the rich and powerful. And no one's moral barometer is lower than Khalida's. Being queen grants her the same rights as being married to a congressman, insider trading, and zero consequence. Khalida's political journey begins at the coast of Africa. And Africa, like most places in Warhammer, is brimming with diversity. It's full of European colonialists, dinosaurs, and worst of all, Somali pirates. So I took a stand, removed the local Romanian infestation, integrated the land, and went into technology. A core aspect of most civilizations, or at least the surviving ones. This is how we unlock real power. Another army led by a bureaucrat with far too many appearances with minors. So I started the Third Dynasty, recruited a couple of skeletons brimming with free will, and I ended my turn, which is the perfect time to start telling strangers about my goals and dreams. Besides the usual short campaign victory of kill everyone who brings down property values, there's another goal: finding the secret Nagash files. These are not books, they are classified documents of necromantic malpractice. Some are here in Africa, while others, like most Egyptian relics, are currently held by Europeans. Our first action after investing in technology is the gated community of Makrak. Satellite imagery revealed something far worse than a man wearing a balaclava at 2 AM. He might be Scandinavian. Inspecting the geriatric fossil, I can clearly confirm he is not Scandinavian at all, but an old man from South London. I unleashed the minions at the disorganized rabble. As for Khalida, well, she dedicated herself to an interpretive dance, symbolizing her superiority over the elderly. With Makrak's property values successfully restored, it was time to move on to Lamia. Respecting democracy, I held special elections, where the only one voting was me. Now, of course, because of unforeseen circumstances of not closing all my windows, the expected happened. Ewald, the local Romanian, seeing that the window was open, couldn't resist his natural urges. So I had to take drastic measures, use my artillery, which is the souls of our former employees. Fired from a casket called mandatory team building, he had his armies of zombies and union skeletons. I had skeletons being reminded that they used to have skin. We are not the same. It ended in a decisive victory. With the Romanian squatter evicted, I researched Tutep, a Tomb King who, like most billionaires, is probably sexually attracted to minors and tax evasion, while also getting attacked by sexual deviants. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where we encountered a real problem. Torek, a 250-year-old fossil on a mobility scooter, immediately developed a newfound appreciation for necrophilia and began violating Khalida's personal space. The auto-resolve bar was a solid red, believable. My options were limited, so I enacted a right, the legal equivalent of a restraining order. The terms of the order stipulated that all my territories would be hit by a biblical sandstorm for 5 turns. This, of course, is a recognized war crime in most jurisdictions, but my lawyer is a dust-covered skeleton who only communicates in performance reviews and good vibes. It worked. Torek vanished. I had 5 turns before the legal system collapsed, just enough time to stack Turep with an army so expendable. Their pension plan was a pat on the back and a slightly shinier femur. Of course, Torek showed up with a second army. In dwarf culture, a restraining order is not a legal document, it's a mild grudge, a footnote, an invitation. I positioned Khalida directly behind his forces, while Tutep would reenact a 1944's kamikaze pilot. I sent in the skeletons, their mission, die, their motivation, the faint hope of being reanimated with slightly less dust. The strategy was simple: exploit the one core weakness of the dwarven people, their short, stumpy, geographically challenged legs. The battle was a masterpiece on poor life choices. By the time the dwarf reinforcement finished their geological speed march onto the field, the first army was already routing. A bit of micromanaging their existential dread, and most were planning their retirement. Except Torek, powered by a mobility scooter and what I can only assume is a diet of pure hatred and alcoholism, he was a walking monument of the American dream. Of course, Torek sent a immediate peace deal, which I did not accept. Seizing the opportunity, I took over Granite Massive and then Kavrak Orad, while also getting a cursed armor, which brought Khalida's armor from a measly 80 to 280, making her go from a literal cloth-wrapped mummy to an Abrams tank. Filling out my DEI quota, I made diplomatic pacts with Cetra, who called me a traitor, but you know, I'd rather not fight with someone who enjoys living in the same areas as me. The Skaven, most trustworthy race in Warhammer, and Krokgar, a literal dinosaur. Next, I unlocked another army slot. The side effect, of course, was inevitable necrosis, a small price to pay for another petty bureaucrat. Here I also made a very controversial move. Piecing out with the dwarves, I couldn't really be bothered with Torek sitting right outside my walls like a 4-foot landmine with chlamydia. With Alakazar now equipped with a skeleton crew, which is a business term meaning good management, it was time for a hostile takeover of the southern territories. Our target, Clan Mortkin, a Skaven clan specializing in poor hygiene and worse life choices. I took a couple of settlements before the inevitable happens, and as expected, Torek clearly declared war on me. Of course, Torek didn't account for his biggest weakness, normal walking distance. Attacking him with Khalida and Tutep, the battle perfectly mimics the benefits of labor exploitation. With enough skeletons armed with bows firing recycled hopes and dreams, his professional, well-equipped workforce managed to achieve several new cavities before they reach my defensive line. The resulting close victory showcases expendable assets over actual strategy. I took the Lost Plateau and finally got my hands on the first book of Nagash, which also somewhat happened to be the fifth. Don't think about it too hard. What did it give me? Army capacity. What else? Probably cancer, considering every Tomb King looks like they've been chain smoking asbestos for 3000 years. I also recruited Tomb King, what the fuck am I even looking at? Well, I recruited Tomb King Yaboy, whose face is probably on posters around children's parks. A few turns later, Torek did the genius tactical move of leaving his home unattended. He was immediately caught in an ambush, sending him and the Ironbrow expedition to the Shadow Realm. Now at this point, it was time to address the sudden situation. Satellite imagery revealed our continental branch has been mismanaged into a biodiverse hellscape by a talking salad. So I killed him. This of course attracted the attention of the local greenskin, Wurzak. This greenskin shaman is communicating exclusively in what I can only assume as psychedelic noise and interpretive dance. So I killed him as well. In an act of strategic genius, I enacted one of my rituals, which granted me a level 3 necrotech, which is capable of colonizing ruins. Now what the game clearly does not tell you is that that's the only thing he is capable of. A truly one-dimensional troglodyte. Now being at war with the greenskins, I marched on and met my biggest hindrance. And you know, peace is a cancer, and our southern border was growing with the worst kind, a Tzeentchian infestation led by Kairos Fate Weaver. His business plan is giving everyone prophetic visions and magical herpes, completely unacceptable. This called for a new executive. I promoted Setup, a Tomb King whose resume listed tax evasion as a hobby, using the strategy borrowed from our friends in the east, Vietnam, also known as hiding in the jungle, until the enemy starts screaming. I caught Mentash, and after confiscating several estates, I finally cornered Kairos. The battle was less of a clash of armies and more of a documentary on stroke. Kairos flew directly into my range of fire and proceeded to have a seizure. For some strange reason, his wizard did the exact same thing. Allegedly, from the autopsy report, they were suffering from hallucination from magical herpes. It ended in a close victory. And after taking Fortress of Dawn, I made peace with Kairos. With the southern continent now a monument to my impeccable administrative skills, I remembered my primary objective wasn't a forceful world peace, but the secret Nagash files. Checking their location made me question this campaign. One was in Lostria, held by a sexual deviant with a god complex. Another one was in Sartosa, a island. There's a temple, there's a lot of gold changing hands, and every powerful necromancer swears they never visited. 3 were in Africa, the final 2, they were a special kind of hell. One was on a boat near Ulf1, on a boat floating at the speed of the continental drift. The last one was in fucking Germany, held by the Romanians, because of course it was. This called for a multi-theater acquisition strategy. I dispatched Alakazar on a goodwill mission to Lostria, while also declaring war on Cetra. Now, because of what I can only assume is the AI being more A than I, Cetra didn't really do anything. This felt like being in a really fast car against a group of children. I won't stop and they can't stop me. I met Cetra, but it's nothing several arrows bigger than his BMI won't solve. And of course, after 10 turns, Kairos attacked. And this is something I was anticipating, yet I somehow completely forgot about. While giving him Fortress of Dawn, I could buy myself 10 more turns, as the art of the deal is to give your enemy something you never wanted in the first place. And to prepare faster, I also waged war on Queek, as his rat-infested vibes was becoming unbearable. And finally, it was time for another book. This one was in the Black Pyramid of Nagash, which really did not give me anything of value. While King Alakazar was in Lostria, a land ridden with vampires, demons from hell, and rats, surprisingly no dinosaurs. And I'm not winning that, so I decided to establish myself in Lostria. Unfortunately for Skulltaker, worshipping literal violence could be considered a bit worse than being stinky or even dead. Back on the mainland, I found Nicolandor holding a book, so he and I made an agreement. I get the book and he dies. So one of the great books was in Germany, held by the Romanians. For that reason, I decided to hire this guy, giving him an army that any person with IQ over 50 should be able to win with, so basically me. As to prepare for this journey, I made some diplomatic achievements. I promised Cetra, Queek and Skulltaker that just for a simple donation, I would not bash their skulls in. Now in local land, some would call this extortion, and I would agree. In Lostria, my brave people were finally about to rob the poor, and with all 19 chariots, I instantly regretted pressing the fight button. This was so bad that I literally wanted to detach my head from the rest of my body. And after winning it, I took the book and I immediately left. This land is not a part of a problem, it is the problem. And with the local abomination getting his shit kicked in, only 3 books were left. Moving to Sartosa, I had to wait out an imaginative peace treaty, because words have power, except real power comes from indefinite servitude. So grabbing another book, I moved on to the last 2. Sending 2 of my best characters to Germany for a quick and efficient regime change, because God forbid I somehow lose a battle across the fucking continent. But of course, I also had to engage in non-consensual altercation with Kairos, etc. But after several turns, I finally found Dragonhof, and I immediately took this mediocre province. And here, on turn 93, you can clearly see the exact moment I found out that the Tomb Kings can actually buy more army slots. Well, across the fucking ocean, I had Alakazar and this other guy swim across Ulf1 looking for Europeans. With several turns having gone by, John Dubain appeared. Obviously, my last hindrance is a Frenchman. While freeing the book from his evil European hands, I finally got the full collection, except I didn't. One of the files redacted by the government. Well, if you want to see me begin the arduous process of gentrifying the Chaos Waste, consider subscribing. Well, that's about it. Thank you for watching. Bye.